We're here today talking with author Norman Law. He's got two books actually out, both of them very interesting books. The first one, Buddha and the Man on the Cross, and then his follow-up book to that, Hinduism and the Man on the Cross. And so he's going to talk a little bit about those books with us, and we're excited to have this conversation. Norman, thanks for taking time to talk with us.
Okay, welcome.
Why don't you start by just kind of telling us a little bit about both of these books?
Okay, first I'll give you the background, and then I'll mention the book, where it comes from. I grew up in a Buddhist Catholic family. So my mother's side are all Buddhist. My father's side are all Catholics. But they don't know what they believe. And so I said, checking all the people I know who are Buddhists, they don't have a clue why they do the things they do. For example, on the 7th month of the calendar, they offer food offerings to the dead. They don't know where they come from. And many of the beliefs and practices, they don't know the doctrine. They just do from what their parents and grandparents did, just carry on. And that happens in many, many religions: Buddhism, Hinduism, even Christianity, Islam, same thing. They don't really have a clue on their doctrine. So I started doing research on their doctrine and have a hard time in Buddhism to find out where it is written. So after a bit of research, I start to write. And then that's the only thing that's really important. They have a Pali Canon. The only book that's written by is about practices, what to do, what not to do. But that doesn't tell you the reason for their beliefs or who they believe. So I start to write about it, about the different forms of Buddhism and what some of the beliefs are, and document that. There's essentially two main branches of Buddhism, and the Mahayana is the one there's no God. The rest of the different branches all have gods. But it originated from India, and it went to China. And in China, they have the same gods, but have different names. So it's really, really interesting that one of the gods I found out, that Shiva, is both male and female. So he can assume any sex. But when he went to China, he assumed a woman's form, and they call it Kuan Yin in China, but actually Shiva. Then he went to Japan, they call Kwannon. Kwannon is actually Canon. The camera, the brand Canon camera, actually Shiva. And that's a really interesting thing. But the rest of the things, their basic beliefs are, how do I put it? They call that an enlightenment. When you're enlightened, that means you free yourself of all your wants, your desires, whatever you want to do. You don't even have to eat, you don't hardly drink, and you don't work, you just meditate. But the main core of the thing is they recognize that sin and evil comes from them. And that's why they try to enlighten themselves by denying all the wants, the desires, and whatever there is, and their lust. So they spend time meditating, trying to get rid of all these things. And then they come up with the concept of a samsara cycle. After they die, they go through a cycle between the good things they do and the bad things they do. So they weigh a scale. If the good things you do are very good, you come back richer or more prosperous. If your bad is more than your good, then you come back as an insect maybe. So you have to work yourself up the samsara cycle. You can be stuck in the samsara cycle for 100 life cycles. So that's what they do. And because they believe in good works versus bad works, that's their salvation, good works. And so they use meditation to do that. They spend hours, the Buddhist priests spend hours just meditating so they don't work. They're parasitic. So they want the food, they go out and beg for food. So if you go to Buddhist countries, you get a lot of those priests in saffron robe or different robes, and they beg for food. And for me, if I'm a Buddhist, then to do good works, I'll give the priest some food. So it's, how do I put it, self-enrichment cycle. Yeah. So that's their basic beliefs of that. But then the other branches of Buddhism, Hinayana, they have gods. And their gods are not really gods. They are mortals who people think did very many good works. Therefore, they put them on the pedestal and call them gods. So when you go to Southeast Asia, you see a lot of temples where they have all these gods, but they're actually mortals. And all mortals, they assume, have attained immortality. So they all have to do good works. And the practices are very different. The practices, they come and how do I put it? They build, they have paper money. They make paper money. There's a yellow piece of paper with a gold center, and they burn them as money for them when they're dead. Those are practices. It's not a doctrine. They don't even know where it came from, but it's passed on from generation to generation. So that's what Buddhism is. Just two basic things: samsara cycle and enlightened life. So there's nothing that says like Christianity, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, or anything like that. They don't have that. So they came up with the Eightfold Path. 8 things that you must do. So when I start working on Hinduism, I found out all these doctrines are copied from Hinduism. Mm-hmm. Except Hinduism, its beginning is very interesting. Hinduism and Sanskrit, that's the Indian writing, did not come from India. It came from Eastern Turkey. The first documented Sanskrit is a horse training manual from Eastern Turkey, and it mentioned 4 gods: Indra, Shiva, Agni, and Nasatya in Turkey. And then it went to India. And one of the reasons for the mass migration is in the Christian scriptures, 700,000 men left Egypt and went to Canaan, but their family and their children, so there's about 2 million. In those days, in 1900 BC, 2 million is a lot of people as a group of people. So when they invaded Canaan, there are 9 different types of people: Hittites, Hivites, Amorites, Canaanites. Most of them fled, except a bit of them left. Most of them fled. They cannot go north because it's Turkey, very strong. The Hittites are very strong. They cannot go east because Persia and Assyrian are very strong. So they went south. And it shows that they landed south in the Indus Valley, which is west of India. And that's where the beginning of the religion. And most people don't know that. Even the Indians don't know that. And furthermore, in India, there is no temple until 4 AD. Therefore, they could not have been a religion. The only religion, 2500 BC, was already in Mesopotamia. India's first group worship is after 4 AD. So when I went and looked and found out that the language at that time is Avestan in Persia. They have the same name in Avestan as in Sanskrit, Hindu. So it migrated to India. So after all the Indian scriptures are found in the Vedas. They're written, they're pre-Christianity, pre-Bible, pre-Torah. So when I start digging into it, there are so many books. The Vedas, I read all the Vedas. Then the Upanishad, I read the Upanishad. I read the Puranas. I read their literature. And what amazes me are the character of the gods. So the book key on 6 major characters of the gods and compare that with the Christian God. So it's very, very different. it talks to you about, let's say, Shiva. Shiva is got a wall for them, but then Shiva is worshipped as a god as well. I'll come back, as well as god of war. And then I be Brahma, and then Krishna, Vishnu, and Rama. And all those characters are deceivers. It's real interesting. The religion prides itself in being a deceiver. So for Vishnu to conquer the world from Mahabali, their demon god, he disguised himself as a dwarf and said, would you give me the world if I take 3 steps? And the demon king says, well, since a dwarf, he could take me big steps. But as soon as agreed, he went up in size and walked 3 steps, which covered the whole earth. So they pride themselves in deception. The god Krishna claimed that he's a lord of illusions. An illusion is to deceive. And to deceive, you have to know the truth. So he prided himself being a deceiver. And then he says, I'm a god of love. So how do you trust a deceiver when he says he's the god of love? Mm-hmm. So this is a major conflict in Hinduism. Indra is also one of the gods from the Middle East. Yeah. And he disguised himself to rape the king's wife, the queen. And it sounds almost like the same story of Zeus, the Greek mythology. And look like that comes from the Middle East.
Yeah. Norman, I'm just curious, listening to you as you talk about these 2 books, how much time and how long of a process was this for you to research and learn all of this and find all of this and get it put into these 2 books that you now have?
Buddhism took me 2 years.
Okay. And
Hinduism took me 5 years.
Wow. So 7 years of your life between the 2 of them.
Yeah. So there's 6 gods that I wrote on. The other one that's interesting is we hear yoga. Yoga comes from the Veda. And yoga is a serpentine position. People don't know that. But that's what it says. It's a serpentine position. Even some of the posture are named of cobras and snakes. And because he's a deceiver, so he's a snake. It's really interesting. And then took me a long time to find out what's the purpose of this meditation. And it turned out that the Hindu meditation, the Vedic meditation, also the same as Buddhist meditation, except for one thing. Hindu meditation, they call it, instead of self-enlightenment, they call them to achieve unity with God or their spirit. And they also use the word free of attachment. That means they deny themselves and set themselves free. But it took me a long time, a lot of reading to find out one sentence they found out. They say the purpose of Zen meditation is to be one with God. And the way the spirit enters the body is through a surgical opening on the top of the scalp. And that's how the spirit comes to enter the body and attach and become its spiritual possession. And that blew my mind. That was the only place I found that says that. And then I say, how does that possession happen? Then I found another verse that says, the intent of meditation is to destroy the free will. It's only when the free will is destroyed, then the foreign entity can enter the body. That blew me away.
Yeah.
So that's the whole intent. So one of the examples I wrote in the book is the Hindus have festival called Malayalam, where the people went into a trance and they put steel rods in their body without pain, and they will parade through the street. They have steel rods prodding through the cheeks, the chest, the ribs, everything, and walk. And to them, it's a big achievement because they have been able to self-deny themselves of everything.
Even pain. Wow.
Yeah. So it went into that. So what I've done in the book, both books, is I show you the actual passage that's taken from the Vedas, the Mahabharata, the Gita, all the books, and I actually quote the passages from there so that it's not an invented thing. I didn't come out to say that on my own invention. So when you go through the book, you can actually say, this is the passage where I got it from, this is the passage I got it from. So it's like quoting scriptures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Norman's book, again, it's Buddha and the Man on the Cross, his second edition he has out, and then Hinduism and the Man on the Cross. These are the two books we're discussing. Both of them available online. You can grab copies through Amazon, through Barnes & Noble if you prefer to read on a Kindle. It's also available through the Books app on iTunes as well. Norman, we've got maybe a minute left. Anything else you want to share with our audience before we go?
No, I think it's for people who wants to discover the truth and find the answer themselves. It's not intent to gain influence, but to show the reality. And they have to make up their own mind what they want to believe in, because everybody has the freedom to believe and practice what they want.
Yeah, it's a lot of research and a lot of time and investment, and you've done a lot of that work and brought it together in this great resource for people to purchase and be able to read and engage with. Norman, thank you for taking time to join us and talk with us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Thank you.